Today I'm in conversation with Lilian Roeland, who is living in Spain and has been living in Spain for a very long time. Hi, Lil.
Hi, good afternoon, good day.
How are you?
I'm good, I'm good. It's a bit cold over here in Spain, but yes, I'm doing very well, thanks.
Good. And I've known you a long time, but I realize I've never known how come you've ended up living in Spain. So how come
Oh,
Spain? Because you're from Holland, aren't you? You're from the
yes.
Netherlands.
Oh, yes. I'm from the Netherlands, and it's weird. I never told you the story, but yes, I didn't plan it. It was not like a dream of me to go to Spain. I never even thought about it. But it happened when I was like 18 years old. I had a boyfriend in the Netherlands, a Dutch guy, and we broke up. Well, he broke up with me. So, as you understand, when you're 18 and that happens, and it was for me like, the first time really that I felt like, okay, the world is ending. What am I going to do? I didn't want to study anymore. I didn't want to continue in the Netherlands. I just wanted to go. And as we were planned to go on a holiday to Gran Canaria, which is one of the islands of Spain, I went to the agency because those days you still had to go to an agency, a physical shop to change your flights or trip or anything. So I went there and I told the lady at the desk that I wanted to go somewhere where it was one big party. And she sent me off to Tenerife. And Tenerife is another party island those days, still today, of Spain. And they're part of the Canarian Islands. And I went there just on my own, 2 weeks. I thought, what can happen? I just go see how I like it on my own on a holiday. Obviously, first time on my own as well. And I must say, I had the greatest time ever in there. I enjoyed even going on my own to dinner. I went out to clubs at night. It was just a amazing 2 weeks. And when I got back, I felt that I wanted to go back to the islands. I wanted to go back to Tenerife. Obviously, I didn't know what I was going to do there or how I'm going to do it. So I bought myself another ticket, a ticket for 3 weeks holiday. And I told my parents I might come back after 3 weeks, but if I find a house and work during those 3 weeks, I'm not coming back. Obviously I didn't care what my parents were thinking. I was just, go out free in the world. I will see what happened. Nowadays I think about it, it was a bit harsh on my parents, obviously, but at that time I didn't even think about it. I just want to be, do my thing. And that's what I did. I went for 3 weeks, found myself jobs. I found myself a place to stay, and so I never went back. I started there doing jobs like in restaurants, worked in restaurants, I worked for clubs. And in the end, I ended up in an American themed restaurant where I was enjoying what I was enjoying very, very much. I was the only Dutch person there. I met a lot of nice people. Some people are still in contact with, and some people they just, you cannot keep contact with everyone you meet when you're there on your own as a young teenager in Spain. But yes, that's how it started. And I was very lucky. Some people say you are very lucky, but then I also think sometimes you also have to grab luck or grab opportunities. There might come some risk with it. But I thought if I do it, I probably get somewhere where I, in the end, would like to stay. And I got an opportunity to work in a hotel. There was a director of a hotel who offered me some work at his hotel. And I did that. And there I started off working in a restaurant and in the kitchen, as I didn't speak Spanish by that than yet, because I didn't need Spanish in Tenerife, because I improved my English, I improved my German. So I started off in the hotel, learned a bit of Spanish because there were very kind Spanish people working in the kitchen and they helped me out. Then I worked in the restaurant of the hotel, which was very nice as well. But as I was a bit of a chatter, the director saw me more or better working as an entertainer. So then I moved on to be the entertainer of the hotel, which means early in the morning, sports with elderly people, but also youngsters. And in the afternoon, I will do the mini disco with children. At nighttime, we will have an evening filling show with bingos in all kinds of languages and so on. And I really enjoyed that. But obviously by that time, I think it was like 2 years I was working there in total now in Tenerife. I thought I need to get a bit of a more serious job. And in the hotel for that moment as an entertainer, it was not a really, well, for me, it wasn't really a serious job. So I talked to the director, and again, I was lucky, or I took the opportunity, but he sent me off to Madrid to learn Spanish. And he had his ex-wife and children in Madrid, and he asked me if I could take care of his kids. And in the meantime, I could learn Spanish. And if I would do that, I could go back to the hotel and work probably as a receptionist or a bit further down or up the chain within the hotel. So that's what I did. I did make a little mistake there because by that time I was 21, 22, and I was thinking, well, taking care of children, what can go wrong? So, but I didn't think about culture. I was not aware of culture. And what happens is that when I started taking care of the kids don't go to bed at 7 o'clock as I was used to in the Netherlands. So you will have them like the whole afternoon, night. And that was for me a bit of a struggle because I didn't have much time for myself. During the day, I will go to classes, Spanish classes, obviously at the house as well as the children that didn't speak English. I learned a lot of Spanish with them, but I was not really happy. But I did it for 8 months and I learned Spanish, basic Spanish, and I was happy with that result. But I decided to go back to the Netherlands because going back to Tenerife, by that time I was already a bit older, and then it was not, you had to get a new contract every month. You had to get your ID approved every month, and it was a kind of a hustle. So I thought, no, I need to find myself a good steady job. So I went back to the Netherlands, started to work for a clothes company, which is a Dutch company, but it was international. And in the first 2 months, I realized that they were starting an office in Madrid. So again, I took the opportunity, or I was lucky enough to go and talk to the director of the clothes company. And I asked him if I could help out setting up the office in Madrid. The only requirement he had, do you speak Spanish? Oh, yes, I did. I said so. Then I went off to Madrid. And that's now 27 years ago. And I'm still in Madrid, not with the same company, but yes, in Madrid. And here I am,
Yes,
27 years later.
Yes, a very long love affair with Madrid.
Oh,
So,
yes.
that's wonderful. Yeah, so now I know that story. And then in terms of you're talking about cultural differences, and the dichotomy of your expectations with young children, and then interacting with the Spanish system, and things like that. What else have you discovered in terms of cultural differences or learning from your side? Because, certainly for me, I've lived in several countries, but I've come from England to America, and I'm discovering that there are wider cultural differences than I would have expected. So is there any challenges you've overcome in terms of cultural differences?
Yes, there are a lot of differences culture-wise, although you will not expect it. But the first thing already was for me, like culture-wise, is eating. The terms of what time you eat, what do you eat at what time. It sounds weird, but I really had to adjust from eating my lunch at 12 o'clock, my sandwich and my glass of milk. I had to change this, or had to change this if you want to adjust to the country. I had to move it like around 2 o'clock and then have your proper meal, which now I love to do so because I prefer to have my warm meal during the day and at night a lighter dinner. I still cannot get used to it to have my dinner at around 10. I only do that if I go out with friends and we stay out or whatever. But that's another thing that I had to adjust to. Also the living outside, which is like a positive thing, and but I had to get used to it. Like, you don't really invite people to your house. You go and visit, you go to a bar. If you say, oh, let's meet up, the next question is where. It's not like, do I go to your place or my place? No, where are we going to meet? It's always outside. So, and in the beginning it was surprising, and it was a bit more difficult or weird, but now I love it, because that's what I love about Spain. You're outside all the time. You've got very long days, which is also what I'm not really used to because of the weather. I personally don't like the hot weather. I'm not really fond of the heat or whatever, especially here in summer. It can be very warm. But what I do really appreciate is the long days, the long hours of sunlight. Even if it's cold, there's still a lot of sun. And that's something that I was used to really quickly. And I embrace it now, that you have long days. A lot of people ask me, would you like to go back to the Netherlands, or do you at this stage would think about going back? If I go back, it will be a lot of, I will miss the long days, and I like the being outdoors and meet people outside of your house. So that's another cultural thing. So another cultural thing would be the administration. It is a bit slower here, and there was a lot paperwork that I had to do in those days. Nowadays it's easier, and for us as Europeans to live in Spain. But there was a bit of a cultural change also with buying a house. I had that experience already. When I had to do it here, it was in a different way. Everything here is a bit more, you need to know people, or people will help you out when they know you, and you have to need to meet the right people. I was very lucky. I had a very good bank manager who helped me out with all the things to arrange to live here and so on. So those are cultural things that I had to adjust to, and which I now embrace, because this is what I'm used to now, and I'm perfectly happy with it, and I would not want to change it for anything now. So yeah, so cultural changes, it is a thing, and it's good to think about it before you go somewhere. But then again, new things are also, you have to look at it as a positive thing, and that's, it's going to be different than in what you're used to in every move you do to any country. So
yeah,
yes,
absolutely, being ready for the element of surprise. Yes,
exactly.
And you made me think of something. Yeah, there was something I want to ask you in terms of when you've lived in a country a very long time, like you have, and the time passes and you build your life and establish yourself, it's fortunately, Spain is not so far from the Netherlands, but it's not next door either. So what's it like in terms of juggling life back at home, friends and family? And as you get older, your parents get older, how is it juggling those kind of things? Because I know my decisions on where to live, whether to stay abroad or not go abroad, have been very influenced by the situation my parents were in.
Yeah. Well, I had first I had in, I think it was in the year 2000 more or less. First there was a moment, it was the first moment after that I left, that I was struggling with being in a different country, because my friends that were now also become to be adults. So that obviously includes, you know, getting married, having children. And there was a moment that I thought, like, although you make new friends, obviously, in your new country, it was a moment that I thought, am I doing the right thing? People getting older, thinking about your parents, my friends getting children, having children. Also, those days, there was not so much WhatsApp, or there was no WhatsApp, and there was no video calling or whatever. So I couldn't see them on a regular basis. And I tried to go to the Netherlands as often as I could, but that doesn't, you don't live their lives at that moment. So I had that a bit of a homesick feeling in 2000. I talked to my friends, and they all said, like, Leo, you're doing the right thing. You're doing what you want to do, and don't worry, we're here and we're always here. And obviously, when you get back to us, if you come over or whatever, we see each other and we go somewhere, and I meet the children and things. And I had the best friends ever, because they always included me with their children. Even the children didn't see me, they knew about me or whatever. So that thing that passed away, and it was like, okay, cool, I've dealt with it and I made the right choice. Then obviously, I did have a bit of a struggle, or it was more difficult when, like, about 10 years ago, no, it was longer than, it was 12 years ago, my father got really sick. And then you're in, and yes, I'm lucky I live nearby, or it's only 2 hours, 45 minutes to get there. But still, if someone, like in my case of my dad, he had a very long sick bed. So he was a long time in the hospitals, out of hospitals, at home, and being taken care of. When is the moment that you need to say, like, do I want to be there, or do I want to be here? It was very difficult. I supported my mom, obviously, as much as I could from a distance. I went as much as often as I could to the Netherlands. And again, I was very lucky at that time. I was working for a Dutch company who also let me travel to the Netherlands as often as I could and wanted. I could work in the Netherlands. So I must say I've dealt with it at the moment that I had to deal with it. And also the time that he passed away, I was not exactly there, but I was there 2 days before it happened. And it was good for me, and it was good for him. He was okay with it when it happened. And also my mom, she felt that I supported her enough from a distance, or being the times that I was in the Netherlands. But yeah, it is a scary thing, because now obviously it's my mom. What's gonna happen with my mom? You know, I know my mom's gonna live forever. So you know, like, I thought also when I left to Tenerife, it was like, well, you know, there's nothing to worry about. Everyone's gonna live forever. You're not gonna miss anyone, and until it happens. But I think you also have to deal with it when it happens. You cannot plan it. You cannot know, what am I gonna do at the moment it happens, because you have to see it and you have to feel good about how you're doing it. And with my dad, I feel that I handled it well, and I'm okay with it. But yeah, it is one of those things that is very difficult when you're away. And if you're within Europe, it's doable. You can do it. Outside of Europe, having your parents in, for example, the Netherlands, then it's more difficult, obviously.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that.
Mm.
And then some people know that I've always had I haven't fulfilled this dream yet, but I've had a dream to end up living in South Africa. And you did, you beat me to it a few years ago. So what prompted that? Because that just seemed to come randomly, but
no,
I don't think it was random, was it at all?
No, it was, well, again, as I don't plan, the same with Spain. I didn't plan Spain, not at all. But it was one of these trips, you know, there were like offering trips, working as a volunteer to go to South Africa for a month. And I always, all my life, I've been or joining NGOs, or I've been helping out also here locally with the Red Cross and so on. So I really had this feeling like I would like to do it abroad. And there was South Africa, or this, you know, this opportunity was in South Africa. So I went for 1 month. I told at work that I was just taking 1 month leave off, and it was fine. They helped me with it. They even helped me with more. They even helped me to take clothes, extra clothes with me, so I can leave it there. And it was very, very good. Again, very lucky, or I took the opportunity to do this. And I was there for 1 month, and I was very, very impressed and very impressed about of the country itself. I went to the part KwaZulu-Natal, Durban area, and I loved the country. I loved the people. I hated what was going on in some areas. And so I came back after a month. I had been working at the orphanage. I had been going to visit special hospitals. Went to into the rural area. I've seen parts of South Africa that maybe not everyone has seen or can see, but I did all that, and then I went back to Spain. I went back to my home. I went back to my job, but I feel bad. I really was not comfortable doing what I was doing, working at this office, making money for myself, knowing or thinking that I could do much more in South Africa than I was doing in Spain. And not for myself. I thought I could do more for the country, for the people that I met there. So after 4 months, I decided to go back. I quit my job. They were not happy, but they understood my decision because I explained to them. I quit my job. I kept my house. I rented it out, and I left. I didn't know for how long. I was going to work for an NGO that was quite new. So we were going to start it all brand new, and with the people that I met there. So I left, and I had this idea: I'm going to save the world in South Africa. I'm going to save these people that I met, and I'm going to be, you know, like so happy for them. But I was getting happy only thinking of it, and I thought that was what I needed to do in my life. So I did, and the NGO where I was working for helped me out with a lot of things. I started a project with teenage boys who I tried to support going to school or continuing at school, so they didn't have to work, because in that culture it's normal that the men of the house or the boys of the house, they need to find a job as soon as possible so they can provide food for the whole family. And I try to make these kids to get a better education, and at the meantime we will provide food for the family. And I loved it, and it was great, and it was great to work with these teenage guys. But then I made again the mistake not to take culture into account, or I didn't think about the culture, because I was just thinking, if I bring my European skills to a country as South Africa, to KwaZulu-Natal, to these boys, then they're going to be fine. But obviously it didn't work that way. You know, you got to deal with the culture, and it's a strong culture. You got to deal with the country itself. You got to do with political parties. I had so much out of a sudden on my plate and was working against me that I got even sadder, and I felt that I was not succeeding in what I wanted to do. And so at that time, I did get some guys staying at my house for once in a while, you know, to recover, to give them some extra attention when they stayed with me, or, you know, to make their life a bit more lighter when they're with me. You know, they could watch television and have fun. And it was, in this case, there was also one boy that I helped out, because I really saw that he was struggling. He was an orphan at that moment already, and he had some problems with the family he was staying with. They couldn't provide food for him anymore, and so he was really struggling. So I started off telling him, "Oh, you come over on the weekends. You know, you can do whatever you want and just relax." And I felt good about it. It was good to see the guys as well. When they were at my place, they were doing well. So that part was still feeling good to me to do that. But I needed to go. I couldn't stay there anymore. This is 1.5 years later. And so I started making plans to go back to Spain. And at this time, this guy that only was supposed to, boy that was only supposed to stay for like over weekends, he was already staying over for holidays. And then in the end, he even stayed for a longer time at my place. And when I started to do the process to leave South Africa again, I had this conversation with him, and I said, "Would you like to join me? Would you like to go to Europe?" And obviously he was like, "Why are you asking me? Of course I'm going." And by the time he was 17 years old, almost turning 18. And so I started the process. I had to get him obviously a visa and so on. I went back to Spain already before him, because I needed to arrange his papers also here. And 5 months later, I went back to South Africa to pick him up, and I brought him to Spain. And yes, although I feel a bit for myself, or I do feel that I a bit disappointed what I did or what I could have done in South Africa. I loved this experience. It opened my eyes that it's not that easy to just go there with a European idea of saving the world. I learned that you don't give people help, or don't help, ask people what they want, what kind of help, and don't assume that someone needs your help and give it to them in maybe a way that they don't need it. Listen more carefully to people. That's really a thing that I've learned out of it. And but yeah, I did bring then this boy from KwaZulu-Natal to Spain. 2 years ago now, 3 years ago, it was in 2010 when he came over. And 3 years ago, I officially adopted him. And I'm very happy that he's here now living his life. And he's enjoying it and teaching English. He got his British to be able to teach Spanish kids in English. And he's doing well. So that's one thing that's very positive of the whole experience. And I'm very happy with it. And he is happy. And that's all I wanted. I wanted to make people happy in South Africa. I probably had make some people at the moment there as well happy, or it was nice to get to know them. They knew a bit about me, about my culture. So I don't see it as a 100% failure, but I do think, and I do want to let people know, think about when you move to a country, you do something in another country, because yeah, the culture is a thing, and respect it, and don't just go there and thinking like, I'm gonna continue my way, because it's not always the right way. But yeah. So South
Yeah.
Africa, I recommend you to go to South Africa. 100%, 100%.
Thank you. And it's interesting what you're saying, because, well, firstly, I don't think it is a failure, is it? You know, you've ended up making a huge difference to a number of people, and certainly to this young guy who has a life out of South Africa with a family. He has you as his adoptive mother. He has his own friends, his own network of, you know, he's independent.
Yeah.
So he's thriving. And so, you know, obviously you've made a huge contribution there. But I also think you've allowed South Africa to contribute to you, you know, in the sense that all those things you've talked about learning, listening more, not making assumptions. I think that's a really, both those aspects are huge just for anybody moving countries, because we do make assumptions, we make generalizations, we have expectations, and when you move, all of that is thrown into juxtaposition because it's not exactly how we saw it.
Yeah.
But also, I think when you go thinking you're out to make a difference, invariably we're not dealing with the reality, we're dealing with what we think is the reality. So, you know, you allowed the reality to wash over on you rather than you wash over on it. And
Yeah.
and so it's so, and that's when we can then start being a contribution, when we're being educated and then providing whatever we have, if we have what they need.
Definitely.
So,
Yeah.
you know, so that it sounds like that's what emerged, rather than, and I think that's a big deal, because you're not alone in going out to a country to make a difference.
No.
But I don't hear everyone speak the way you're speaking, you know,
Mm.
as in acknowledging something deep about themselves.
Yeah.
And if you were to do it again, you
Yeah.
would notice your assumptions and you would be listening more.
Yeah, exactly. Because when I left, I was already 36 years old, which you would say like, now I know it all. Or that's what I thought, no? Now I know it all. No one can do me anything. I don't need to learn anything. And now you're 15 years later and thinking like, I didn't know it. I thought I knew it, but no. And you still learn so much on your way, and also about anything what's happening in the world and how you respond to things. No, it was a very interesting 1.5 year in South Africa for sure. And I would do it again, but in a different way, knowing what I know now,
You're
for sure.
reminding me very much of when I lived in Lagos. And in my first few months, I got a job really quickly, working. My background is television, so I was working, but in a different way, because I worked selling TV programs, and now I was working for a company in production, and I would organize interviews, arrange the interview questions, and all sorts of things. It was great. But so I did have some challenges because I had very high expectations, but they were mine. I didn't share them with anybody. I just would have them in my head. Like, you will do this, you will be on time, you will do it this way, you will do it that way. And I didn't communicate. And I'm passionate about communication. And I didn't, you know, I would just have these expectations. And so when people didn't do things the way I expected, it was actually on me. It's not on them at all, because, and some of my expectations were completely inappropriate for the situation we were in, or the circumstances, or the, you know, just like you say, the cultural norms.
Yeah.
It was just entirely inappropriate. And so I was the one who had to go for a fast education. I went thinking they needed to catch up with me, but it was, you know, it was really me who had to go through a fast immersion of being appropriate, And once I did that, then I produced results, you know,
Yeah.
and everybody was happy, and we'd have really effective dynamics. But yeah,
Yeah.
it was an interesting learning curve, which you've just I haven't given that thought for a long time.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, we go thinking we're bringing the change. There's an arrogance there almost, and yet the tables are turned on us.
Yeah, exactly.
And
But
we
it's
go
good.
through
It's
the
good to
change.
learn from it. Yeah, it's good
Yeah.
to learn from it, and you keep it now in mind forever. I
Mm.
mean, with even being here in the country in Spain, I mean, it's still, and with friendships and family, you keep it in mind that, don't just assume, or don't just think that you will know better. There's always different options, or oh, for sure, for sure.
Mm.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah. So true.
yeah. But
Mm.
then it was difficult to get back to Spain, because obviously, yes, I had, my main focus now was on this boy that I brought from Spain. His name is
From
Smanga.
South Africa.
Some from South Africa, sorry, and his name is Smanga. But so my aim was make sure that he feels well here, and he, gets to know the culture, and that was another thing for him, seeing him being shocked by the culture in Spain.
Mm.
And we would have like funny conversations about it as well, because obviously he had no idea where we was gonna go, and how it was gonna be, and that some of things of his culture is not known here, or he even had to adjust to some things that he was used to, which is normal
Mm.
in his country, but it's not normal in Europe. So that was my main aim, obviously. And I had to go back to office work, and I had to go back to my friends, and I did feel that was a bit like an outstander, or it was like I'm torn between two countries now, which I never had that much between Netherlands and Spain, but
Mm.
I did with South Africa, because my focus in South Africa was totally different than being in Spain. Now I had to be, meeting friends again, go for coffee, go to the cinema, and those things I hadn't been doing in South Africa, because my whole days were filled in like helping people, being out there, always busy with helping people. And now all of a sudden I had to change that again to make a life in totally different culture, which cost me a lot. It was very difficult to get back to living and make sure that I was living okay in Spain. It was a very
Mm.
interesting period as well.
Mm.
So change of culture can also shock you again, or your
Mm.
mindset. Your mindset.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Because I guess you had assumptions there as well. You know, when you
Yeah.
return to your own culture, I noticed exactly what you're talking about when I came home from China. So, you know, when I lived in China in my early 20s, I came
Mm-hmm.
back making huge assumptions. Oh, it's England. I know how to do this. Blah, 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 blah. And then I was having to reintegrate myself. You know,
Yeah.
it didn't just come, and you know, and it would show up in the smallest of ways. You know, standing in a queue, and just a simple process would seem odd, or seem my behavior would needed to adapt. You know, maybe I was
Yeah.
too loud, maybe I was too something. You know, it was interesting.
Yeah.
And in addition to you assimilating yourself, you're supporting a young person assimilate themselves. And presumably he didn't speak Spanish, Smanga, right?
Oh, no. No, when he arrived, he didn't. So that was the first thing he had to
Mm.
do. And that's another process where we could understand each other, because obviously I went through that process as well. Although his
Absolutely.
his background, language background, it's way different than me learning Spanish, knowing already English, speaking Dutch. You know, those are different languages, but still you can, learn a language like Spanish. But he came from knowing a very little, well, not very little, but he was, short on English, and his language, his spoken language is Zulu, which got nothing to do with any of these other languages. So yeah, he struggled a lot, but I could understand that. And after the first few months, he got the idea. And as he also in English, he's very good. He picks up very good the accents and the language and the grammar. So he picks up very quickly, and then obviously he got friends as well. And I would notice if he would have been with his South American friends who speak Spanish obviously as well, but with a different accents than Spanish people, I could hear it when he, was hanging out with his South American friends, because he will pick up the accent there. But he was good. He was very good and very quick. And he also went to a good school. So it was, I was very happy about that result. And now he speaks Spanish, like even better maybe than
and does he feel that he's really, for using that word again, assimilated into living in Spain? Does he feel very at ease and at home in Spain?
Yeah, he does. And also he goes back once in a while for holidays to South Africa. And because he does really love his country, but he also sees that now for him it would be like a struggle to go back, because now people see him different in different eyes, because he's been to Europe, he's been to Spain. So they have an idea of him like he's the king in Spain, and he knows everything, and he must be rich. So people back, his friends, will approach him differently now. But he does want to go back, that's for sure. He does have it in his mind, he wants to go back. But in the meantime, he's enjoying Spain as well. It has been a bit of struggle, because Spain has only like, they had a dictator for like until 1974, if I'm correct. So that's not that long time ago. And they still have quite a big generation that's racist. And he had to suffer that a lot. And he even sometimes mentioned to me that he even feels that Spain sometimes is more racist than South Africa, because he lived with it his whole life. And he says in Spain, and that's another thing that I didn't know about Spain before I brought him here. Now, looking through his eyes and listening to his stories, yes, it's correct. He had, obviously now it's getting better as well. We're now 10 years later, 11 years later, and it gets better, luckily. So, but he did have a bit of a struggle. Maybe it was also, you're a new country, you have to see how do people deal with racism. So he was always on top of it, and knowing what's aware of what's happening around him. And but yeah, he made me also see this side of Spain, which I do not really like. But yes, has been a bit of a difficulty for him coming to the Spain. But now, yeah, he speaks Spanish. He eats Spanish food. He loves Spanish food, and besides Spanish food, he eats all kinds of food. He knows how to eat with chopsticks and things like that. He never tried it before, but here, because he got a lot of international friends, he eats all kinds of food and loves everything. So yeah, it's been a long journey for him, but yeah, and he's happy. And yeah, and I hope he continues like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And what are you thinking of in terms of your plans? So he has maybe a long-term dream to return to his home in South Africa. And what about you? What are you doing now, and what are you thinking of doing?
Well, if you listen a bit to the stories, I never plan anything. Everything just comes up and I just go there and I stick there. But I do have in the back of my mind that I want to go to different country. I don't say I'm going to do it like today or tomorrow. I do have it in my mind. And my next country I have in my mind would be Canada. And I've been there a couple of times for holidays. And
which part?
Well, I love the Toronto side. I like the city, but I also like the outskirts of Canada. And then it's mainly or mostly the area around Vancouver. Not so much Vancouver itself, but in somewhere I can see myself in the middle of nowhere, a lot of mountains, a beautiful lake, and I would like to have like my own bed and breakfast little place somewhere. But that's an idea, and it's an idea. And normally, if I have an idea in my head, I try to do, or I'm planning already ahead. But I feel that I have to wait a bit, and I don't know if it's because of the family situation. Smanga still, he's still young. My mom in the Netherlands, Canada would be further away. So maybe I have to wait a bit. So country-wise, if I leave, I don't say I will or I will never leave Spain. But if I will leave, I think my next step is going to be Canada. I would love to. But let's see what comes. Because I also think, like, as I said, it's being lucky or catching opportunities, or take that opportunity. Don't be afraid if something shows up, and think about it in split second, like, yes, I'm gonna do it. So I think I'm waiting for something to come up to give me that push to do it. I'm not afraid to change, but there is something that for this moment I'm not doing it that now. And also, I mean, I'm quite happy what I'm doing now, and I'm traveling within Spain. I work now. I stopped working at offices, and working as what they call a tour leader. And I go on holiday with people. Very bad, difficult job. And mainly I do it in Spain. I just go for 10 days or 12 days to different cities in Spain. And I make sure that the people have a great time, that they know where to go, make sure that everything what's booked is well booked and all in place. And yeah, so that's what I'm doing now. So that part I like a lot, to travel. Now it's traveling around Spain, but I would not mind to do this also a bit more wider and travel around the world and see more of the world. So maybe I can combine it with Canada. I don't know, something like that.
And do you ever have Dutch people seek you out to take you around Spain, given that you speak the same language as they do, so you're an advantage?
No, I don't, not for trips, because mostly the people that book these kind of trips that I do are American, Canadians, from Australia, because obviously they come to a whole different place for them, and they find it more secure if someone goes with them on the trip, because of the language, because of the knowledge of the places, and so on. I think if Dutch people do it more like bus trips. If they want someone or a guide with it, or a tour leader, they will have it on more bus trips, not so much going through Europe. Maybe they will take a tour leader when they go to Morocco, or to but what I do in Madrid is, for a lot of Dutch people, is if they come here for events, I will escort them from the hotel to the restaurant, from the airport to the hotel, and things like that. So that's more the people that come over for like a weekend. Their company has planned a weekend in Madrid, and I'm the one who's making sure that the whole weekend is well organized, and I will take him everywhere. So yeah, that's where I do meet Dutch people, and it's a lot of fun.
And you take all the stress away for them. You know,
Yeah.
if you go on a business trip or a weekend trip and there's a lot to accomplish in a short space of time, it really makes a difference. As somebody used to travel for work all the time, a lot of time and energy goes into dealing with all the logistics. And so if somebody's there to take all that headache away, that's a huge deal.
Yeah. And I like that's what I like. And then again, I'm taking care of people. And that's in the end something that I like. I don't know why.
Yeah, it actually, now that you say that, I think that's what's motivated a lot of your choices, you know, and even your move to South Africa, it was well intentioned, even though you deem it a failure, but you know, it came from a very good place within your heart, and and taking care of Smanga and now taking care of all your travelers, and it must make a really big difference to a group of people who are on a, you know, because if you come from America, Canada, or Australia, you've come far and you're coming for a short period of time, you want to optimize the time you're spending. You want to see it at its best. And you bridge the two languages. So, you know, they're fully
and the
taken care of.
cultures and
The two cultures.
and the cultures and the expectation they have, and what they can expect in Europe or in Spain, because that also can ruin your holiday if you got some expectation, and then like me not knowing about the culture, and you get to Spain and then it's like, oh, the rooms are smaller. Yeah, because in Europe the rooms are smaller in the hotels, comparing with, for example, the United States, and it's not because the hotel is wrong or something, or the hotel is bad. No, in general the rooms are smaller. There's a different kind of service that they give. So, and that's why I'm there to, you know, make understandable these kind of culture difference. And also tipping wise is a totally different culture thing in Spain comparing with an Australia or in the United States. So yeah, it's that's why people like to have someone local. I'm not 100% local from Spain, but after so many years, I think I can say I'm local. So yeah, and that's why I'm there, the tour leader.
And
I'm also fun. I'm also fun. I know where to eat well.
You tap into your natural entertainer that the director in Tenerife spotted so quickly.
Exactly.
And also, do you think that you were talking about expectations? Do you think that you said earlier that you learn a lesson and then you bring it back with you? And like you said, going to South Africa, you discovered so much about what you thought was the way, and then learning what was the way, and you're adopting their way rather than imposing anything. And do you think that has you be empathic and sympathetic to an American guest or Canadian, Australian who's making a judgment or an expectation? Do you think that enables you to be gentle with them because you know what it's like to be them?
100%, because I've done it, I've seen it, and there are differences, and I love the differences, but you have to embrace those differences. You have to be okay with it, and it cannot be wrong or right. It's a difference, and that's why we travel. That's why we go to look at places. That's why we want to know different places. Otherwise, you're a bad traveler, right? You have to be open to this kind of differences. And as I said, it doesn't mean it's right or wrong, but there are differences, and it's good to compare them. And it's nice to have, also for me, to have this conversation with the clients about it, to also to get to know more about their country without me being actually in their country, because they just tell me about it, or they inform me about it, or they tell me about what they do in their country, or and that's very interesting information as well. And I learn on every trip, I learn more and more. And also I learn from the questions that the clients ask me that I might not know, or I might, or open my mind like, okay, I didn't see it like that. But because a different traveler from another place will notice. Sometimes they notice things and I'm like, oh, did you, like, I didn't even notice it. And but that's because I'm used to Spain for now a long time, or it's not such a big difference between the Netherlands and Spain. But it's very interesting, and I learn on every trip. I learn more about the country which is now my country, Spain. Then yeah, and I'm open for it to hear it, because everyone sees it in a different way. So yeah, it's good. It's good.
And finally, I just want to touch on a point you've said a few times, because it is interesting and I want to look at it a little bit more with you. You talk about luck or it being an opportunity. Now that you've talked all these things through, do you think it is really luck? Isn't it? Is it luck, or is it more you're the one that sees something out of, it's a discovery?
That's why I call it luck or taking the opportunity, because yes, I'm lucky that, for example, that the director of the hotel saw potential in me to take him up. He didn't know me. He didn't see me. So yes, he saw me. He saw me working in a restaurant, in another restaurant. He approached me, and he said he could offer me a job at this hotel. And obviously, I was like young and not bad looking. And the first thing, because you have these things on your mind, like, what does he want? What does this man want? So I'm lucky that I'm meeting him, but then I have to take that opportunity, knowing that maybe I'm doing something wrong. But I've always thought on my mind, if it doesn't work out, I will go back to the Netherlands, and I had a safe home to go back to. That's also a very important part. Every step, everything I've done, even South Africa, every where I've been, I always knew that if anything happens, I can go back home, and home, meaning the Netherlands, where I have my parents who will back me up. So when I took the opportunity to go to this hotel and work there, I was lucky, but also I took the opportunity, because sometimes maybe people get these kind of luck, but they don't take it because they think it's too big risk. People will think I'm crazy. People have thought that I'm crazy. People said to me, don't do it. Don't, what are you doing? Why are you going there? But if you really want to, and make sure you have a backup plan. So I knew if I was going to get to the hotel and I'm going to start working, and I will notice that it's not what I expected, or maybe the director of the hotel had other intentions, I would have been gone, like out. And I can, and that's a thing, every step, or all the opportunities you take, you have to think of a backup plan, or have an idea, what will I do if it doesn't go right? But yeah, then a lot of people tell me all the time, like, oh, you've been so lucky with that job. And then I'm like, yeah, I was lucky, but also I took the opportunities. And the same with the job I was having when I went to South Africa. When I came back from South Africa, the company that I left took me back again.
When you came back after a year and a half, they took you back.
They took me back. And obviously that's also having a lot of luck, because at that moment they were looking for someone new and they hired me back. But then again, I also was like taking the opportunity. I went with in good contact with the company. We were in touch also during my time within South Africa. They helped me out with a lot of things. They shipped goods from Spain to South Africa. So it's luck, it's opportunities, and you have to do it. You have to do it, because I also have friends and families that say like, oh, I wish I would have done what you have done, or I wanted to go. And I must say, I also have a friend who did it, changed country because I did it. I have a friend who changed her job because I changed from working in the office and going to work as a tour leader. And I didn't, I didn't do it on purpose, but she said like, if you can do it, if you can change the job, but you can change the country, I can do so too. And it's true. A lot of people think like, oh, it's special. Lilian did. No, you have to do it, but you have to do it yourself. And you have to, I always think you have to have a backup plan, and only do it if you really want to do it yourself. But
beautiful.
yes.
What a lovely message to complete our conversation with. Thank you so much. It's been really lovely. Thank you very, very much for sharing everything with me today.
You're welcome, and hope I see you next time somewhere.
Yeah, that would be lovely. It's been a very long time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Take care.